Hey, this is Brian von Herbulis, Director of Mission43. And as the country continues to shelter in place right now, dealing with the corona crisis, our team thought it was a good time to reach outside of the borders of Idaho and start engaging with other thought leaders in the veteran community, folks that are doing really good work around the country, introduce them to our Mission 43 membership, and just let others know what work is being done on their behalf as military veterans here in our country. So as such, I want to invite a good friend of mine, Garrett Cathcart, an Army veteran and the founder and executive director of Mission Roll Call. So Garrett, welcome, and thanks for joining me today.
Appreciate for having me, brother. Thanks. This is awesome.
So how you holding up, man, in the corona crisis? What do you got going on?
Question of the day, right? I live solo in a big loft in Atlanta, Georgia. So I do a lot of work, but also I try to get outside a couple times a day. I go for a run once a day. Wake up every morning, make my coffee, and actually write down 3 or 4 things I'm grateful for, which has been kind of cool, just to reflect on things. So I'd say I'm doing pretty good. I got a job, and work has kind of increased with this crisis, showcasing veterans leading across the country. It's a project I've been working on lately. We can talk about that. So far, so good, right? And it's important to stay connected to others that are kind of isolated too. So that's kind of been my efforts in the past few weeks.
Yeah, I love that you wake up and you're intentional about writing your goals for the day down. You get your workout in, get that out of the way. And I think that's an important practice that most folks should recognize and maybe even implement in their lives. So thanks for sharing what you're doing, what your routine is, and I know you're a huge connoisseur of coffee, man. What kind of coffee are you drinking these days?
This is I'm making a Chemex as I'm drinking right now. We've got all the time in the world, so you got to grind the beans. Got the little gooseneck, but this is Thousand Faces, which is a roastery in Athens, Georgia, and it is from Ethiopia, I believe. Very.
You go straight up pour over style on that coffee, man. I love it.
Hot and black,
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Man, I'm like old school Navy ship riding, like sits in my pot 4 days and I just reheat it. So
I'm a coffee snob, right? Small things in life, small wins these days.
Yeah, I love it. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I know you're living in Georgia now, but where'd you grow up and how did you find your way into West Point? And then what'd you end up doing in the military?
Yeah, so I was not from a military family. I grew up kind of a nerd, read about history, and always drawn to military history. And so a lot of books I read, all these famous generals went to some school called West Point, which I'd never heard of, and I grew up in Indiana. So in the 3rd grade, I decided I'm going to go to West Point too, even though I didn't know what it was. And my stepdad was a track and field coach in Indiana. And one of his athletes actually got invited to they call my candidate luncheon, where they're trying to recruit kids to go to West Point. And I tagged along, and everyone thought it was cute that a 5th grader was there. And they patted me on the head. When I came back as a high school sophomore and junior, they remembered who I was. So I got some cool guy points for being dedicated. But ended up being the only school I applied to. If I didn't get it, I was going to enlist in the Army. So I got in, and my sophomore year at West Point was 9/11, which was kind of obviously changed everything, right? So it's my first day ever of any type of military guard duty in my life was 9/11/2001. I was the cadet in charge of quarters, basically the staff duty guy. That kind of changed everything. And so I actually went to my roommate and I decided we were going to quit West Point so we could go enlist in the Army because we thought we were going to miss the wars. But my TAC officer in his first real active mentorship of my life was like, "Hey, don't be an idiot, Cathcart. Wars are going to last a while.
Yeah.
Graduate, go be a platoon leader." I'm like, "Yes, sir." So, so I graduated. I branched armor. There's 16 branches in the Army, and I got lucky enough to be put into a cavalry unit. So I was a cavalry officer in charge of 19 deltas in the Army, or cavalry scouts, which is a unique kind of specialty. And so I met my platoon in Baghdad, Iraq during the surge. After 5 months in Ranger School, which I did not get a tab, I must say. Broke my leg in Dahlonega, Georgia. But met my platoon in Baghdad, Iraq. Literally took over middle of the surge, which was, what a gift to lead folks in combat for the first job. But honestly, that year in 06 to 07 was kind of the crucible of my life, right? Hiding insurgency IDs were now a pretty common thing. My commander was killed in action when I was a young platoon leader. I was involved in an event where we were ambushed and 4 of my guys were killed. And then at the end of all that, my best friend was killed in action. So, that was a rough time. But you come back, you refit, and I was supposed to deploy again the next year as a staff officer, like build slides and answer radios and talk.
Yeah.
And my boss came in one day and said, "Hey, Cathcart, you suck at slides." I'm like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "There's a job for a major. You're a young captain, but we need someone to live with the Iraqi army and train them. Would you do that?" And I was like, "What'd you say, sir? I could operate again and get out of this office?" "Yes, sir." So I spent a year living with and training and fighting with the Iraqi army in Baghdad in 07, 08. I tried to quit the army, and then that same boss said, "Cathcart, we need you." And he knew what he was doing. He offered me command of a cavalry trooper company that I was in when my commander was killed. And he was pulling my heartstrings, so I stayed in and commanded a cavalry troop. Took him to Afghanistan, which is a whole other set of stories, but I got to lead 130 guys in Western Afghanistan for a year. Going to quit the Army again, and then I got picked to be an aide-de-camp to a general officer, which I didn't think would be a good job, but I learned more about leadership working for that guy than I think I have anywhere else. There's a million stories involved in that, but was an aide-de-camp. Then I finally did get out and went to find my fortunes and followed a lady to California and became a med device rep, which was not the best transition. But so yeah, I got out after about 9 years of service.
So you jumped right in with both feet and really got yourself immersed in combat operations for your 9 years. And then your final assignment was aide-de-camp. And where would you say your greatest trials of leadership occurred in that 9-year period?
It's funny. It's the first and last assignment. A young platoon in combat. You're tested, like your boundaries are pushed and you're tested because guys want to know where they stand with you. And I'll never forget my kind of first time I had a bow up on senior NCOs and my own platoon sergeant. It was like we were driving down a street and the guy had an AK, pointed down, staring right at us. But "Sir, let's engage this guy." Clearly, the guy's protecting his family, like any of us would do. I said, "No, we're not doing it." Right? Your guys mutter under the breath, "LT scared." But I remember feeling so certain, like this is the right call. I need to make my stand as a leader for the first time in combat, and I did. Nervous as what would happen, and then a few days later, "Hey, sir, good call," right? I was validated a week later, right? But then I won respect because I kind of stood my ground and made a call. And this is the way we're going to operate. We're going to, we got to do what we got to do. And it's always a hard call, but that was a million stories as LT is kind of finding your feet. Leadership for the first time when folks are getting hurt and killed, right? And then at the very end, you're a captain with a 2-star general who following around in meetings with Secretary of Defense folks and CIA folks, and he's getting ready to go be the RC East commander, which is half of Afghanistan. It's a big deal. And so I'm helping him prepare for this, which is a large responsibility. But so learning when I could insert my opinion, "Hey, sir, we should do this. Hey, sir, what about this?" Was delicate. But I think one of the greatest lessons, he had a meeting at the White House and one of the CIA about Afghanistan, and we had an event where we lost 8 guys to a suicide vest with the 4th Deployed Brigade. And he said, "Garrett, we're going to go to every one of those soldiers' funerals. And usually it's any flag officer, whoever lives closest goes, right?"
Right, yeah.
I said, Sir, what about the president? What about this?" Right, which I clearly did not know my place. And he just looked at me and was like, "Hey, Cathcart, are you in charge of the 4th Infantry Division, or what? Are you in charge?" I'm like, "No, sir." And he looked at me and said, "If they die with this patch on their arm, I will be at their funeral. You can figure that out. You figure out logistics. I'm going to go." So, I think from a leadership standpoint, he sent his deputy 1-stars to all these famous, folks that influenced his career. And we flew for 2 weeks around America to every small town and big city, go to every one of these people's funerals. And he got on a knee and gave a flag to every mother and every wife. And it was tough seeing all that, but we got pretty close. But that as far as leadership lessons go, you can't question his priorities, right? And so, it just made everyone that ever worked for him be loyal to him, right? Because where he stands and where his heart is. So, I guess from your question, the most I've ever learned is a brand new guy in combat and figuring out what I'm doing in my life, and to the very end where a senior leader is showing strategic leadership that gets 50,000 people to follow him, right? And what a gift to be able to do both of those things.
Yeah, no doubt. And fascinating experience for sure, getting that combat experience and then seeing true servant leadership applied at the flag officer level. So you earlier mentioned your transition. You got into medical sales out in California. Talk a little bit about that, man. How, like a lot of military veterans experience, the first round outside the military doesn't usually go as smoothly as you had hoped. Tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
Yeah, it's kind of humorous. I got out of the military. I was recruited into an intelligence gathering organization. I thought I was going to be James Bond / Jason Bourne, or maybe an amalgamation of both. A very long pipeline. But I followed a lady to California after about 8 months of just like reading books, hanging out, cooking meals, and she didn't know what was going on for my job. She's like, "You should get a job." So I called one of these headhunting firms that specialize in placing former junior military officers. They all hung up on me. "Oh, you're out. We can't help you." And I get one like, "Oh man, we'll really look at your resume." And they said, "You're pretty decent experience. You're a med device guy." I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?" They're like, "You're medical device." I'm like, "I know what it stands for. What does it mean?" Like, "You make a lot of money." I'm like, "I'm in." And so, no preparation. I fly to Memphis, Tennessee, to go to a company called Medtronic to be a spine hardware guy. I bought my brand new Banana Republic suit. It's Memphis, and so they're known for blues and barbecue. So I was like, let me explore some of this, and I did. Not real disciplined about it. Got in about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning before my big interviews. And that next day of interviews, it was 5 one-hour interviews across the whole company, right? I get to the lobby. Most of these folks are in their low 20s at this point. I'm in my mid-30s. First real job interview. And they all have these black leather folders. And I said, "Guys, what's in your little leather folders?" "Resumes." I'm like, "Oh, crap. We should bring resumes to this thing?" They all start laughing and giggling and snickering at me. I'm like, "All right, dudes, not my first rodeo. It'll be okay." So I walk down the hallway, and I see this guy. I'm like, "Hey, if I send you an email, will you print out 10 copies?" And he's like, "Oh, you didn't bring a resume to a job interview?" I'm like, "Dude, calm down. Please, hook it up."
I love it.
He prints them all out. I can't make this up. Walk into my first interview, the dude I stopped in the hallway to print out the resumes. He's like, "Oh, hey, Garrett, you have a resume?" I'm like, "Actually, Wayne, I do. You get 0 points for preparation, but 100 for innovation." I'm like, "Your
Awesome.
motto is literally the most innovative spine company in the world. What do you want here, Wayne?" It's like, then they go into questions about leadership and problem solving, and you just start telling stories about Afghanistan and Iraq, and you have so many stories to talk about, right? And they're just blown away. Like you led tribal militias to fight Taliban. Like, yeah. It's all the same. If you can pivot those experiences to leadership and influencing people and motivating them and understanding how people work, right? So I get the gig, and then I'm in Beverly Hills now, in operating rooms selling back screws to neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons. I don't have any medical background, any sales background. But I very quickly learned why I'm there, right? Surgeons want to bro out hard. I can tell war stories. So it's a very transactional relationship. I'm telling stories. You like me, you buy my stuff. And that was when I learned I can't do this. Like, it's just, what a 180 from being on a team of folks that you love for a cause that is amazing and you all have common purpose. So I'm grateful for that experience because it accelerated my transition, right? Going from Afghanistan and leading men in combat to Beverly Hills and schmoozing doctors. Nothing is more 180, but I needed that experience to light a fire underneath me to say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. I didn't know what the words community meant and service and that I need those in my life. And so my boss, who gave me this incredibly large break because he hired this guy with no experience, I've never really quit a job before. In the Army, you turn in paperwork. So I just went to his office in LA, and it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I just started making an old fashioned. I brought all the ingredients with me. And I was like, "Sir, here, have this. It's not you, it's me. I miss believing what I do in a team and common purpose." And I wanted to speak and got kind of emotional. It's like, "Well, Garrett, after that speech, honestly, I was going to offer you a big bonus to stay here, but after that, I can't. Good luck." I was like, "How much was it going to be, though, sir?"
Yeah, right.
That's where right away where Joe Quinn called me, the famous Joe Quinn of Team Red, White, Blue, and now Headstrong. And I only met him once in my life before that. It was in Afghanistan. He was a coin advisor to Petraeus, and I had, through tea and hookah and BS, and made friends with some tribal leaders, and I got them to kind of roll with me and do some operations. So he came out to meet me and see how I was doing. It's just a big Army commissioned forces guy with tribes. But he called me out of the blue and was like, hey, you remember me? I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, you should work in nonprofit. I think you should do that. And I said, Joe, I love you, but I'm not going to be poor, dude. Come on. And I went volunteered in LA with the RWB, and it's like, it just kind of clicked. This is what I miss. Being around good people, making fun of Navy dudes, right? Telling stories. And so that's when I made the old fashioned, the boss quit. Got hired by RWB and drove across America in my Jeep from LA to Atlanta. And I've been here ever since.
So tell me about your first role there with Team RWB. I mean, I know Mike Irwin pretty well, the founder there.
Yeah.
And Mike's actually gonna be on with me next week doing a session much like this, and participates in our Leaders Fellowship program here in Idaho. But tell me about that experience and what your role was with RWB.
So I was their first ever Southeast regional director, right? So I mean, it was a startup. It was not private. It's still a startup company. Mike had this amazing idea. Blaine Smith kind of was the first official employee. Veterans miss camaraderie, right? Physically being together. Physical fitness is a big part of our life, and when you get out, you don't have to go to PT, and some folks let it go, and some folks don't. But it's that accountability. So the idea being, how do we build this kind of this all volunteer folks getting together across the country organization where I don't care if you're running, doing yoga, going hiking, shooting, eating pizza, getting folks together, right? No real estate, no cost, and so I got hired. And I loved it because Blaine was like, dude, here's your task and your purpose and a budget. Call me when you need me and just let me go. I thrive in that. I thrive in that kind of environment, right? And so I came to Atlanta because some of our biggest donors are in Atlanta, the founders of the Home Depot. And so I just started thinking, what do me and my friends miss, right? Let's go for a run. And then all the chapter captains, the volunteer leaders across America, I said the same thing. Look, here's money for your city. Don't spend it on booze. But basically anything else is okay, right? Get people together. Whatever's in your town that people do, fishing, hunting, karate, go to a movie, just get human beings together and have community, right? And then from there, it just blossoms. And so, I enjoyed the problem-solving aspect. And to me, it was all counterinsurgency. Who are the leaders? Who do we get to? How do we get folks engaged? How do we market this thing? So it really was I found my bread and butter in RWB, and I did it for 5 years, where we got the Southeast from kind of very small to kind of thriving, right? And, RWB was now in 212 cities. And it's you see that iconic eagle on the red shirt, and you kind of automatically know a lot about a person, right? So, a very important time in my life, right? I knew my first job outside the military where I had real purpose, real meaning, and was able to I miss leadership, leading people again, right? I think we all do at some level. And I've learned that leading volunteers is kind of the PhD level leadership, right? I mean, in the Army, they have to listen to you at some point, right? I mean, it's easier when they admire you and they know you love, they love them, and vice versa. But leading a volunteer who doesn't have to be there, different level, right? There's no sticks, only carrots. Right? They're only going to be there because they want to be there. And that fascinated me was that, how do you get people to work for free for 30 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
Flying out and seeing them, or driving out and seeing them and handing me a coin and saying thank you, you're doing amazing stuff. People will work for 6 months for free after that because that's a lesson I stole from the general, right? I mean, you can never replace a human interaction, right? I could take 2 days of travel to go see one person, just to say thank you and buy a meal for them. Totally worth it. No question asked.
Yeah, community is so vital. If there's one takeaway in our 4 years of existence as Mission 43 here in Idaho, that's been it. That community drives everything.
It is everything.
People crave that so much in their life. They want to feel a part of something. And that identity the military gave them, and that identity to a community, and when that's stripped away, it really creates this massive void. So much value in what Team RWB and other like organizations are doing around the country. And that's why I think it's so important to share your passion, folks like you, their passion for working in this space and helping people find their community, find things that matter to them to be a part of. Which leads me to Mission Roll Call. So you spent 5 years with RWB doing great work, building that out. Now I think RWB's got about 200,000 members around the country and just continues to grow and do great things. But you left that to create your own thing. Mission Roll Call. So what is Mission Roll Call? What's the value that brings, and what's its mission?
Sure. So Mission Roll Call, we are a program of America's Warriors Partnership, another nonprofit, AWP, right? And so I had an idea, and I got recruited to kind of fulfill it under Jim Lorraine and AWP. And it was like utilizing social media. I kept looking at Instagram, and I was like, how does Instagram know I'm a veteran? I keep getting these ads for like 3 earplug lawsuits. It's like, how do they know I'm a veteran, right? At the same time, there was a little bit of frustration of like, you start seeing the Mission Act and kind of these policy level initiatives. Everyone's rightly so pissed at the veteran suicide epidemic. And so I started thinking, how do we influence policy, right? And so roughly the idea was like, what if we got a lot of people involved digitally through social media and or email acquisition, and how do you operationalize that and channel it towards policymakers? And so that's kind of a rough idea, and that's why I was kind of selling it for it was a thing. And Jim Lorraine, he said, hey, we think you're the guy for this. Come on over and figure it out. So before we even had a name, we started working on the idea. And the mission really it's to create it's a movement to give every veteran a voice, right, in issues that affect them. Because traditionally, if you're very passionate about something or a policy, whether it's for the state legislature or Congress, you can call your congressman, and they'll answer you, and that's powerful. You can join a legacy VSO, the VFW, the American Legion, and tell them what you're thinking, and try to get your issue on the policy agenda. But there's no way. How do you amplify your voice, my voice, their voice into something powerful, right? And so the idea was to grow. How do we create a constituency? And this day and age, through social media, getting lots of followers, lots of emails. And then I sat down and we're talking with smart marketing folks and folks that understand algorithms and beep bop boop, all this kind of stuff. We're going to get 1 million eyes on this. And I said, I'm just a cavalry scout, but like, what? You get 1 million, 2 million eyes on a thing online. What's it? What is the thing? A lot of blank stares, right? And I'm like, to me, as a veteran, it would be interesting to see a veteran talking to another veteran about veteran stuff, right? How do we? I hate this phrase now. Now, how do you create content that's engaging? And so I was like, dude, let me just hit the road and talk to veterans about what's important to them, right? So very early on, I was frankly, in bars with an iPhone, like, bro, what do you think about this, right? To get video clips. Then I realized this is dumb. How about you hire someone that knows how to work a camera and they come with you?
Yeah, I know that all too well. Yeah, hire the pros to do that stuff.
Documentary film guy who's just the best. We traveled. We started driving around America and then flying around America and meeting folks, and that turned into content. And we've grown and grown. And so now the goal was a million people by July, and our most recent goal was 725,000 by April 21st. We've already blown past that, right? We're 136,000. That's social media followers and emails, folks that have signed up. Awesome. What does that mean? How do you influence policy with that, right? So I said, let's just do something broad and see what happens. Let's sign a petition telling both parties in Congress to figure out how to solve veteran suicide. Very broad, I know. No specific ask. That's been up for a month and a half, 2 months. We have 175,000 signatures from all 50 states, right? And when they sign up, the zip code's in there, so we know what district they're in. Handed that to Congress, signed a letter, and I was immediately called by both the House and Senate VA committees. Like, dude, whoa, who are you? What is this? What do you think about Bill 785? Right? You got their attention quick because you have so many people saying something, right? So really, it was about creating a platform to get people engaged through original content, through storytelling, through teaching folks about what's going on in the world of veterans, right? Because look, most people are policy wonks. They're not going to figure out what bills on the floor, what they want, what's TBI, what's community-based care, and so it's through polls and petitions, really, and education. And we're still new, right? We're 9 months old, and our first real tangible action has been that letter, and now we're being asked our opinion. So that's the intent. We're still doing that, but obviously the COVID-19 crisis has changed everything, right? Which kind of leads me to the next thing. I'm talking a lot, but I sat here. I drink coffee and paste. That's when I have ideas, right? And so I sat there thinking, we built this incredible community of digital folks, followers. Veterans are so uniquely positioned in this time because, man, we've led in uncertainty. We've led in ambiguity. We want to do something, right? Well, besides, the right thing to do for the most part, unless you're a healthcare worker, is staying at home, which is driving the veterans nuts because we want to jump in and do things and serve and help. Well, how do we leverage that? So the idea was like, why don't we talk to veterans about what they're doing now, and they can create short little video clips, and we can stay connected, and we can inspire each other, and we can teach the rest of the country the lessons of veterans and show that veterans are civic assets and you want them in your community, right? So you've done an awesome video and challenged somebody. So it's taken off, right? So it's a veteran leadership series, and we get more and more videos every day about what veterans are doing in their community during this time, and it's frankly been inspiring to me too.
Yeah, I've been watching all those videos, and that campaign really is fascinating to me because veterans do offer a lot, and you're giving them their voice through a digital platform to share their thoughts, their ideas, and things that matter to them. They're sharing their routine, they're sharing their perspective, which you wouldn't otherwise get to know or hear without your platform giving them that space to share and to truly lead and inspire other people with sometimes the simplest of messages. I mean, it's fascinating the feedback I've seen. I've seen a little bit of people who just needed to be inspired in a moment of time while they're isolated right now. I'm sure you're seeing that 100 times over every day with these simple video messages you're collecting and allowing people to lead through a digital platform. So I commend you, man. It was really smart, and I love the voice you're giving our veterans around the country, and you're giving us a lens, a filter to see other people and what matters to them.
Yeah, it's been amazing, right? So we started this with what I call influencers or influential veterans, right? Medal of Honor recipients and some senior military leaders, and that got it going. But frankly, it's been fascinating watching just veterans from around the country want to give a message of hope or inspiration about what they're doing. Everything from, helping other people to donating blood, and to just, helping other folks stay inspired, right? I mean, every video is different. There's no guidance. Hey, give me a short message about what you're doing to lead in this time. And the answers are across the spectrum, but they're all connected to serving a cause greater than yourself. And that just kind of filled me up and inspired me. And that's the hope that we do for the rest of the country, right? Provide veterans a platform for the voice to be heard, which is why we exist, right? For policy, but now it's inspiring the rest of the country with lessons that we've learned through our own trials and experiences and hardships.
Well, I also love that it's influencing so many more people, not just veterans are paying attention to these messages, because now the platform, of course, with the use of social media, is going well beyond. It's our ability as veterans to influence those that never served. Like just this morning, my wife got a message from a neighbor of ours who has a 10-year-old son, and she said she watched that short video and she watched it with her son and said, my new message with our son is positive attitude and effort every day, and put your effort into things that matter most. And she's like, yeah, just those simple things are inspiring how people are trying to live their lives today in times of adversity and uncertainty, which is where we all find ourselves. So I'm just really appreciative of your effort and calling on military veterans to share perspective. And perspective is so important because you can draw from it what you need in that moment. So again, I commend you on that. I wanna ask you, you're obviously in tune with a lot of other organizations operating in the veteran space.
Sure.
Who impresses you? Who's doing great work around the country?
Man, who impresses me? I think obviously, and I know him personally, so I'm impressed with him as a human being and a leader. But as an organization, one that just jumps to mind is Headstrong, right? The Headstrong Project, for two reasons. One, they're working to kind of take away the stigma of mental health care, right? And so if you don't know who they are, and I don't work for them and I don't plug them, I mean, I don't get paid to plug them, but they go into a city and they find the best psychologists in that city. They pay them their market rate, and they fill their books full of veterans, free of charge to the veteran. So I helped them in Atlanta meet some people, and I did an interview. Said I'm going to go, and then I got a call like 4 months later from a therapist saying, "Hey, dude, I saw you on TV talking about this. are you ever actually going to come to this shit or what? And I was like, you just called me out, lady. So I did go, right? So I'm biased. I'm now in Headstrong talking to a psychologist about war stuff, life stuff, and it's helpful. You work through some stuff, right? And so the ability to talk about stuff, right, that you've been holding on to. I've always felt guilt for a lot of guys that got killed. How do you move on past that? How do you be a better human being? I mean, everything, right? And so Headstrong impresses me. I'm always impressed. I'm impressed a lot by people, right, that work in this space, because you ain't going to get rich doing it. And you do it because you're passionate about it, right? And so, obviously, where we met, we're both alumni of the Veteran Leadership Stand-To program at the George W. Bush Institute. What an incredible experience that was. I mean, the ability to connect with folks across for-profit, nonprofit, and government organizations of just incredible calibers. I never met Kristen Sabo, right, who's an incredible leader at Boeing, and she's an Army veteran, right, and everything she does. And so, I don't want to name them all by name. Obviously, meeting you and what you do at Mission 43. I'm impressed by people most, right, because they're the ones who drive everything, right? So, I can name a lot of organizations and the work that they do, but those mean nothing about the people. And so people full of passion and leadership that choose to spend that in service to others, in service to veterans, obviously a cause that we're both passionate about, because a veteran fully realized, fully transitioned, and with a new purpose, I think is one of the most powerful things that we can have, right? You have experiences that you cannot buy. I don't care if you have all the money in the world and go to the best colleges in the world and schools. The experiences of leadership and humanity through the military and look, and through combat are bar none, second to none. And so those folks that can take veterans through whatever it's job placement or community or camaraderie or voice and policy and amplify that, it's really the lifeblood of our country, right? Because it shows the rest of the country, hey, you can come out of military service and you're going to be better off, right? It's about changing the narrative too. And so, I can name a lot of folks: Joe Quinn, Sabo, you. Jim Lorraine's done a lot, obviously. It's the people, I think, that they keep me inspired, keep me in this work, right? I would be hard pressed to find better people than in this business, I think.
Yeah, I would second that for sure. To me, it's all about the people that demonstrate passion and want to just provide opportunity to others in various ways and take care of them and make sure they're successful in life moving forward post-military service. So
I have an organization, but Garrett Abbey runs a Project Recovery. Are you kidding me? You fly around the world looking for lost servicemen and women since World War II and before, and to bring them home. What a sacred mission, right? When he told me about that, I was like, I looked up, I was just blown away, right? That we still have folks in the nonprofit space whose sole purpose is to find folks, right? That's the thing about being in the space. You continually learn and meet people and learn about organizations that are doing just amazing work, right? And changing the world and giving families peace. I get fired up easy, but there's an organization and a guy.
Yeah, no, you know how much I respect Garrett Abbey. He's been a guest at one of our 43 Inc. sessions here in Idaho, and the work he and his crew at Project Recover, and I happen to be one of their volunteers, so I'm intimately knowledgeable about their organization.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he fortunately he invited me to join them a few years ago, and just what an impressive group of people that truly living America's promise, right? To always remember that there are folks out there that need closure, and to go in search of missing, MIAs from previous conflicts and close the chapter for families, find them, repatriate them, and really bring a sense of patriotism and closure to these families is so impressive. I love Derek in that group, man.
Gives me goosebumps.
So as we come out of this coronavirus crisis, what's next for Mission Roll Call? Where are you going next? What are you going to be doing when you're able to move about?
Yeah, I think like a lot of leaders, we got to, veterans are going to be the ones to lead this recovery, right? It's going to be a recovery, right? Whether it's of a purpose, community, economic. We are the leaders. We've done things in hard times before. Not that we have a monopoly on it, right? Other people are great leaders too, but we have those experiences that are hard to find. And so I would love for Mission Roll Call to be a platform for veterans to congregate to help lead the recovery, help us get us back to where we were before we started, right? Through policy, through amplifying messages, through traveling the country and talking to folks and sharing those videos and those stories to the rest of the country. I'm not sure, frankly, what that looks like right now exactly, but I know that we want to help, lead us out of this, right? To be a platform for the veterans around the country doing great stuff, and how do we showcase them and raise them up and get them what they need, right? And so, man, it's going to take all of us, right? I'm not sure we've ever known something like this, right? I mean, this kind of, in a small way, reminds me post 9/11, right? When we're all very close and we got to work together, and it's uncertain and unknown, and everyone's a little scared. But it's different too, right? I mean, I think about leaving the wire a lot now, right? Because anytime you leave the wire down range, anything can happen. And I say that because now, leaving the wire now is for our healthcare workers walking into a hospital. They do that every day. And that really kind of inspires me, right? So, what messages can we share to the nurses and PAs and doctors and the folks cleaning their rooms that, like, they're risking their life and of their families, frankly, by going to work every day. And if they didn't do that, we wouldn't have folks to take care of all of us. So, how do we share those stories too, right? Service takes different forms. Selfless service certainly takes different forms.
Yeah, we're certainly in unprecedented times for our generation and multi-generationally right now.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely think there's a need and a cause to recognize where our first responders are going to be, where our healthcare workers are going to be, and some of these lanes that have been laid out for support to our veterans, we may need to look at new programming for folks that have been on the front lines of this stuff. These are the new front lines that we're exposing ourselves to, and others that are living on the front lines are going to need our help and our experience, much like, how unfortunately the combat casualties led to modernization of prosthetics and the way surgeons look at problems. Maybe our mental health care and the things we've been doing in support of veterans can now be transferred to how we support first responders and healthcare providers as well.
Well, I think you've just given me one of our first priorities, right? Like, how do we take our wisdom and knowledge and veteran policy and programming and organizations, and how do we translate that or help folks along that are going to do it for post-COVID stuff, right? I mean, there's an idea. I'll give you credit, but we're going to do that.
Yeah, I love it. We're at Mission 43. We're looking at that locally too. How do we take them and bring them into our fold of just a community of people that are caregivers, care providers, and leaders in our own communities? What are you reading right now, man? What kind of knowledge are you gleaning? What can you share that somebody else may want to read?
I'll go grab it real quick. I know we're at it. We can edit. All right. I love books. I started this a while ago, but I'm now doing it, and this is now more than ever appropriate. Leadership in Turbulent Times, right? Study of both Roosevelt's, Lincoln, and Johnson. Actually, I get to teach a class. I'm lucky enough to teach at Georgia Tech Leadership in Military Science to freshman ROTC students. So I kind of threw out the slide deck of the curriculum. I said, your final exam is writing a paper on leadership in crisis, right? That's what we have to do as Army officers, leading hard times. And this is the book I want you to kind of take it off of, right? I mean, it's just fascinating to see people under stress lead, right? Because it applies to all of us now, even in your own home or at a large strategic level. It's also good to do a little escapism. Best American short stories, right? Just kind of short stories, fiction. I think you can learn a lot from novels and fiction. And I'm an old-fashioned newspaper guy, so every morning I read the New York Times, see what's going on in the world. Other than that, I got a lot to pick from. I got to figure out what to read next. But I mean, this is a cliche, but so true, man. Leaders are readers. What a great way to learn from others' experiences and to glean knowledge from other folks, right? Reading has been a passion of mine since I was a small kid. It's what brought me to West Point, right? Is reading books about famous leaders. And so I think if folks say, now of all times, if you could set aside a piece of every day to teach yourself something or be entertained or to feel something from a good book, then everything's not as bad as we think it is.
Yeah, Garrett.
What about you? What are you reading?
Right now, I'm reading the memoirs of Ulysses S. Grant. So I'm sure as a West Pointer, you probably got that on your bookshelf somewhere, man.
Well, that was the first book ever sold door to door in America, right? So Grant is dying of throat cancer. He's been swindled post-presidency. He has no money. And Samuel Clemens, a.k.a. Mark Twain, convinces him to write everything down. And so the book, that was the first book sold door to door. And so you can find first editions fairly cheap. I mean, I don't show all my books. I got a first edition sitting over there. $150 for a book that was in 670 something. So yes, Grant's memoirs are a favorite of mine.
Yeah, great read so far, man. It's just incredible perspective, right? Somebody that's led through turbulent times and at the very end of his life still trying to take care of his family by writing his memoirs as he's dying and ensuring that his family is well taken care of. So really cool, fascinating story. Hey, if we can ever get you out here to Idaho, we'd love to sponsor that trip, have you come out and showcase what you're doing with Mission Roll Call. But let's stay engaged, man. I love what you're doing. Keep up the fascinating work there at Mission Roll Call, giving our veterans a voice around the country. And let us know if there's anything we can do to support your efforts here at Mission 43.
No, thanks for having me on. This has been amazing just to talk about what we're doing and to learn about what you're doing. I would absolutely come out to Idaho at any point to talk to Idaho veterans about what's important to them and kind of, do a road show out to Idaho, right? I mean, it'd be awesome to see you and talk to folks out there. And I think it's the first time I've been to Idaho. I've been to the airport. That doesn't really count, though. So.
All right. Well, bring that energy, and I look forward to connecting again and seeing you here in Idaho.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all you do.
Yeah, take care, Garrett.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in as we expose and bring together other military thought leaders from around the country. Let them share their perspective and continue to watch. We're going to bring more military leaders from around the country to this forum.